Hey, man, is that Double D? Yeah, man. Well, turn it up, man.
Let's just go in and, like, kill all the orcs, right? They're the bad guys. Who gives a shit? We just hack and slash and we loot their dead bodies, right? Hack and slash, kill them all, you know, conquer the infidels.
Boy, that campaign sounds like a barrel of fun, doesn't it?
Somebody who's opening a refrigerator and leaning in, right, is the language of a woman. Somebody who's opening the refrigerator and being cut off halfway through that lean is the voice of like a mermaid or a siren. Right?
This is not the face of the hobby anymore. And I think there's been mistakes made in years past where people assumed that D&D players were all, you know, white dudes in a basement. Which has been a faulty assumption for a lot of years and gets more and more false every day. And so it's, in my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough.
I just had to be born with empathy and a weakness for socialism and femboys.
You gotta put a little hot sauce on the taco, you know what I mean?
We want this dwarf to be the dwarfiest dwarf.
Right.
We want the elf to be the elfiest elf.
And just the dashiest dash of Tabasco.
Their voices need to carry across water.
I'm a creative. It's a huge drain, right? Because fans can be awful.
When we got the descriptions, they were very adamant. They were like, try not to make it like a white blonde guy. Like, please, like, we love him, but there's like 500 million of them.
The diversity that the characters need to have needs to reflect the gaming world now. The mix of people that are playing these games, you know, it's not, 13-year-old white boys held up in their basements. It's a very diverse crowd,
You say white lives matter, they don't. White lives don't matter because white lives aren't a thing.
What's this?
What's this? It's the jacket.
The jacket.
Lutherville, Marina Del X, Otisburg. Who's this monster? She's got her own place. Otisburg. It's a little bitty place. Otisburg. Okay, I just wiped it off. That's all. It's a little town.
Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
Great, Sam.
We dumping chump. It's a landslide, sir.
On guard.
Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis!
Double zeros, baby!
Yeah, double zeros, baby. How's everybody doing? See who we got. Badger, Panther, The Then. Good to see you guys. Adino, Ultra American Tabletop Role Player. Cal is here. Good morning, buddy. And thank you for everything that you do. Patrolling the grounds and such. No one of consequence. Sorry you had to suffer through the open. I know you don't like all those people talking. Surly's here. Overkill Joe. He missed us on Wednesday. He's here on Saturday. Yep. That is Todd, DM Blackwall. We will be talking to him in just a moment. Dark Knight of Hibernia, Off-Grid Gaming. Craig. Good to see you, sir. Didn't do nothing. I don't know about that. Sir. Thank you guys for showing up seriously on a Saturday. Been wanting to get some of these small creators on for a little while. I think Saturday is the perfect time to do it. A little bit more relaxed. And I tell you what, the best way to do it is just to tear the Band-Aid off and do it. Boom. First one.
Hey, how are you?
Matt. Tamika.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
We had you here for Massacre Grounds, right?
You sure did. Yep.
Yeah. Yep, and you have something new cooking, which we will talk about in just a moment. But it is good to see you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
But you are not alone. We also have Todd, DM Blackwall. How you doing, my friend?
Good to be here, and doing well. Very busy weekend, though.
I know it's crazy. I thought as I got older, life would just kind of slow down a little bit. It is speeding up at a rapid pace.
Oh yeah.
All right, so you guys both have, I think, pretty interesting products. Matt, let's start with you. You have a new Kickstarter going, do you not?
Yeah. My last Kickstarter, which you supported, and I love you for that. Thank you. Was Massacre Grounds, and it was Western. This time we go to a little bit more fantasy because we all started in the 70s and 80s playing Dungeons and Dragons. So high fantasy is kind of my first love. When I was on the show last time, I kind of talked about this project. We didn't have a name for it yet, but it is with mail, which is its own setting for basically a whole continent. And then it's called Cult of the Winged Skull. So it's a new book. The adventure is 34,000 words, so it's probably going to be bonus way above 100 pages. I developed the setting, and then also I throw in 4 adventures that are developed for each system that the book is in. I had to choose 2 systems, and I'm kind of a tabletop RPG whore. I love OSE, I love Dragon Slayer, I love DCC. We talked about this, like Shadow Dark. I mean, literally, if you could play it and it was on the back of a cereal box, I would play it. I had to pick 2. So DCC, I've kind of built up a little bit of a following. Master Grounds, the people were so great and kind to me. I was like, I can't let those guys down. And Shadow Dark right now is a juggernaut. 2 million.
Yep.
Is 2 million. So yeah,
hard to ignore.
It's hard to ignore where that's going. So, but I also like the dynamics of the 2 systems, and then obviously my old love is BX and OSE, so that was there. I chose not to release the book in the 2 others, just not yet. If it does well, I have no problem with it, but when you do have a book, you have to pay for layouts and art and everything else, and it's just a cost thing. So right now, that's my Kickstarter. You start out as in this band of mercenaries. You always got to get the group together. And I was like, what better way than you're fighting as mercenaries? If the bonus adventure and we reach our stretch goal, you will actually find out how you end up in the mercenary army in the town of Port Mirror. So I wrote a 0-level funnel or gauntlet if it's Shadow Dark. So you kind of find out how you get there, but let's just talk about being there. So you finish up the battle, and your commander, Captain Kozak, gives you an assignment to take this beautiful maiden that's been captured by the goblins to a town of Twigfront, which is a halfling lumberjack town. So it kind of sends you on this whirlwind adventure across the continent. You learn a lot about the different. What I wanted when developing, a setting was factions. I wanted, I think a lot of times, we get lost in, like, we want everybody to get along. I didn't really want that. I wanted goblins to be goblins. I wanted kobolds to be kobolds. And I wanted them to develop their own villages and towns and everything. So as you kind of go through the countryside, some of that is developed. Some of it will be developed further on. But as you make your way to Twigfront, you run into the various factions. So I have 2 knight factions. I have an evil set that's called the Order of Nightfall. And then the Knights of Rainreach is kind of the good faction. You'll run into those as you progress. You also run into the 3 different wizard factions: good, neutral, and chaos. But you work your way up. You find that a mystery kind of develops. So, like, wait, this other prisoner, so Kate is her name, her sister's alive. And as you progress, you find out more information, and it leads you to this cave and a goblin village called Gura. And you find out the goblins are holding her prisoner. But there's a lot more to it. There's actually an evil wizard involved because, goblins.
Is there is this kind of like is it like a little bit of a sandbox thing here?
Yeah.
You're kind of creating a a bunch of different areas that you can go off aside from the main focus of the adventure?
Yeah, so you have so that's why I put 4 different adventures. So depending on where I don't like railroading characters into one thing. So if the towns are fleshed out and I've got suggestions, but also I know that GMs and judges really like to do their own thing. So I gave you an outline of each town that you could run across, and I thought that was the best way for a GM to really expand on what they wanted to do. And then I have the 4 adventures in there so they can really kind of sink their teeth into what I wanted. And then the 4 adventures obviously build on each other, but you don't necessarily have to play them in order, depending on how your players develop. I also have a lot of side stuff built up because what would a good continent be without pirates? So I love the whole pirate theme. So one of the pieces of art,
man, pirates and halfling lumberjacks. Where do I sign up?
Yeah. So this is
tell me more about the halfling lumberjacks. I hate to say it, that was sticking in my mind from the moment.
The town of Twigfront is basically a lumberjacking town. The halflings kind of unwillingly run the lumberjack industry because that's the area they live in. They're not halflings; they're still halflings. They kind of have a mediocre work ethic, but they're friendly and they welcome people in. But one of their industries is lumberjacks. So one of the adventures is a bunch of their lumberjacks get taken prisoner or just disappear on the top of a mountain. So the party is sent to just basically on a very simple mission of rescue the lumberjacks or find them. So as they get up to the top of this lumberjack camp, they climb up. They have I love old school monsters. So your first run in you're going to have is with a hippogriff, with a couple of them, and then the next one is an owlbear. Because I love old school. You run some sturges. You kind of journey up this mountain. And then you realize as you make it into this lumberjack camp that the lumberjack camp is kind of built around this giant, long dead dragon skull and dragon bones. So you kind of start realizing things are more developed or something else is going on. And then the cult, you've had, well, if you've not paid attention at all by this time running across the continent, you find out a little bit more about the cult of the winged skull. You've had a couple run-ins and you kind of know something is going on, but it just like one brick leads to another brick, leads to another brick, kind of stacks on there. But you find out the lumberjacks are being basically held prisoner and being forced to work to restore this old keep that you find out that the evil wizard that was in the goblin cave is now running this old keep and restoring it with the lumber that the lumberjacks are harvesting. Nice. You also kind of, and I only touch on it lightly, is this is a setting with no dragons and they don't know where the dragons went. So I always love dragons, but I think, in lower level campaigns, they're not useful other than maybe as, wisdom or whatever. So I start putting the groundwork that these dragons are gone. Where did they go? I have a lot of tie-ins because I just love like a rich, deep history that you can kind of visit later. The other thing too is I know, a lot of judges will buy one adventure and then play off on it. So, I love that. Like I love hearing, we talked about this in Massacre Grounds, is I want to build a setting out in a big sandbox and I want you to play in it. And then I want you to email me and tell me, hey Matt, this is what I did. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, yeah, that's great. That's good. And so I always think that's the highest compliment. If you take my stuff and you build on it to
take the ball and run with it.
Yeah, it's like I'll give you the thing, and I want you to buy more adventures, so I want you to, buy my stuff. But I also want to hear about your stuff because, hey, this is a hobby. We all started. I mean, Todd, I know you're waiting patiently in the background, but all creators, like we love to create and we love to talk about our stuff, and we run games, make new friends, and that's the whole. My
sure
wish is.
Yeah,
I want to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what. We'll come back. We'll kind of go off and on here. And like you said, we'll get Todd in here. But before that, John Tate gifted 1 membership. Thank you so much, John. I do appreciate that. Always very welcome. Todd.
Yes.
DM Blackball. How are you doing?
Oh, good, man.
What are you known for? As if we don't know already. There it is.
Horde Wars Basic. That one, we don't talk about sales numbers too much. I think I will here. Horde Wars Basic, we sold about 550 copies in the first year of release, which I'm pretty content with. If I compare that to like Kickstarter backer numbers, we're pretty happy with how that book went. So we just released Horde Wars Advanced in the last 2 months, and that is the complete rule set. Basic was basically a starter kit, right? 180 page, levels 1 through 4. This is a 300-page book. The PDFs are available now. $20 if you want to wait till St. Patrick's Day. You can also get a discount then. But we also have pre-orders up for physical books. We did a print run of 300 that is on the way to us now. We plan to fulfill those in April, even though we originally promised May, because our publisher was on time.
Nice. That's always good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Give the elevator pitch, kind of like Matt did.
Oh, sure.
For Horde Wars, what are we talking about here? Obviously, it looks like we're talking about a fantasy system.
Yeah, fantasy RPG, D12 based instead of D20. It plays faster at the table than D&D. If you buy Advanced, you're going to get more in our 300-page book than you get from Paizo or Wizards of the Coast in 3 books, in real measurable ways, including number of monsters and beasts to fight, including the amount of magic treasure that we provide, including character options. We're giving you more than they do, actually. There also are some unique system things that we were able to do, one of which is, rather than playing one of our game's careers, each character for the player characters plays 2. So an NPC in the world, for example, might be a knight or a red wizard or something like that. A player character, their advantage, the thing that sets them apart, is they get to have 2 careers and gain the benefits of both. And
Nice.
so you could be, for example, a knight and a huntsman, and have both ability suites. And we provide 21 careers to pick from. And we did that mostly because if you can pick one, you can roll a d20 to select the other.
Right.
If you're indecisive, there is a way to speed that along. But it plays faster at the table. We do demo this at conventions, and when D&D and Pathfinder players see us playing, they often come over and check it out, and we often get sales that way because they see how quick the turns are moving.
When with a name like Horde Wars, is there like a mass combat sort of
so
to it?
Our very first play session, our first test game with this system, involved 5 player characters against 40 goblins. That battle was done in about an hour. And not all the player characters were dead, which told us we were on the right track. They could have died, and some of them, and I think one of them may have. But we designed this game from the ground up to be able to handle larger numbers of opponents than most RPGs handle well. And so there's a number of things we did with that. My co-author is a physics professor and math teacher, and so there's a lot of mathematical choices we made to help the game play quicker. One really simple one to explain is, like, let's say you were getting level drain or cursed in another game system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, that's some kind of penalty that is adjusting your dice modifiers. What we're doing instead is we are having you roll 1 die size smaller. So, for example, instead of rolling a d12 for your main resolution, for your attacks and skills and stuff, you're rolling a d10. If you have another level of affliction, you're rolling a d8, and so on. And that might not seem like a big change, but that actually speeds up play significantly when combined with some of the other changes. Because
we're going against a target number there. Roll over.
You are.
Okay.
You are. Roll over, equal or over. And the another thing that we did is we made spells like Fireball, Lightning Bolt, attack rolls. And this speeds up combat in 2 ways. One, you're making an attack against kind of flat defense numbers for these different opponents, rather than having a bunch of different saves with different modifiers. That speeds up gameplay. But also, you can score a critical hit as the wizard casting that, so you can do double damage. And because we're rolling a d12, natural 12 is a critical hit. So you have almost double the odds of critting compared to D&D.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And there's a bunch of similar things. Our weapons also play with the fact that we're using a d12. And so a lot of the special effects, like a stunning effect or knocking someone prone or this kind of thing, are based on critical hits.
Is there a like a location for the critical hits, or is it just the normal like?
So in
X
that
amount of
regard,
damage?
we were a bit more fantasy oriented in that in this game your character does not tend to get permanent crippling injuries. You may die, but you are otherwise going to be able to recover. Possibly it may take a few days, right, with magical treatment and whatnot. It may not be immediate, but you will generally be able to recover. We are working on a game to release in November or December, we're hoping, called Dropship, where it's similar. It's D12 based, uses the same core mechanics. But in that one, you can get like limbs blown off, and, like, concussions and stuff.
Now we're talking.
But that,
talking.
and you could port the rules over; it wouldn't be a problem. But that's because of the genre, right? This is medieval fantasy, and that one is future warfare with cybernetics and stuff. So.
Nice.
Yeah, and so because of the genre change is why that rule is different.
What are some of your favorite sci-fi movies?
I mean, it's going to sound silly, but I enjoyed Starship Troopers quite a lot, actually.
I did too.
Movie. That's a really good movie.
Yeah, I think it holds up well.
I was just watching some Seinfeld before this, and it's funny because it was an episode where Elaine Bennis saw her nemesis Sue Ellen Mishke, the O. Henry candy bar heiress in the show. And I'm like, she looks familiar. And sure enough, I looked her up. She was like the kind of severe female captain in Starship Troopers. Yeah. So look it up. I'm like, that show Seinfeld had like everybody like at their early, in their early stages of their career.
Seinfeld and Friends also had a ton of star. If you look at the star-studded lineup for Friends, it was like ridiculous. Like,
Matt, do you have a favorite sci-fi movie?
I'm going to go boring here. My favorite sci-fi movie is I remember in 77, 78 watching Star Wars at a drive-in. I mean, I never
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
I know it's kind of a boring thing, but the whole, it launched me into collecting the figures. I just completely geeked out on that most of my life. So I'd have to say that's my first love. But Black Hole was another one. I think, was it called Black Hole?
Oh yeah, Disney. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. The whole, and then I've been a Star Trek. Not so much the new stuff. The new stuff is kind of. It seems like it has an agenda for me.
Yeah, silly.
But
stuff is very silly.
Well, they give a tease that it's like, oh, this is gonna be really good, and then they just kind of go off, and it's like I don't know. I just hasn't had the same flair. It's kind of like Marvel movies for me. They're like they become very cookie cutter, so I don't enjoy them. But Star Trek, Star Wars, the old school stuff, just really have always. But Starship Troopers, the novels that went with it, it was phenomenal. Black Hole was another one with the I can't think of the robots. I love that movie, and I've watched it again. But, it's definitely not a masterpiece by anything, but I just love.
It's good fun, just good fun. What about what about like fantasy movies? The things that inspired you. I mean, are we still talking like the classic, like Conan, stuff like that, or is there any?
Yeah, So, Greg and I have talked about this. The Crow was one of those with the Cyclops in it. When he asked me to play in his test thing, I was just like, I was so jazzed up. I got to play the Cyclops here, so I love that. Beastmaster was another one. The different genres of Robin Hood movies. I just loved high fantasy. Conan, obviously a big one.
Yep. What about you? What about you, Todd? Any fantasy movies that trip your trigger?
For me, it was more books for fantasy. I read probably thousands, definitely hundreds of fantasy books. A lot of sci-fi as well. But I didn't.
What book series made the most impact on you?
Oh, let's see. Probably Probably The Hobbit, not Lord of the Rings as much. I enjoyed it. I've read it a number of times, but I think The Hobbit was a very good way to think about adventuring and about still in a fantastical world, but a kind of otherwise believable story.
Yes.
Right. And so I liked that quite a bit, but I would say there's a book series by Eric Flint. I don't remember the name of it offhand. That was also quite good, where he had kind of his own world. It was a 3-part series. I'll look it up at some point, but there were a number of different ones. But I think The Hobbit, if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I just started the Malazan series by Steven Erikson, which is I kind of like The Black Company by Glenn Cook.
Yeah,
and I'm like, my opinion is it's hard to trust anything written recently in like fantasy and sci-fi because a lot of it is kind of just full of agenda and stuff like that.
I am rereading Dragonlance, the original trilogy.
You know, it's funny you should mention that. I know Matt said that was a big inspiration for his project, and I've kind of always, for lack of a better word, I always kind of look down my nose a little bit at it. But the more time goes by, I'm like, I hear more and more people that I kind of trust saying like, no, those books are really good. So I think I'm gonna read those at some point in the near future.
Well, and Margaret's venture into space, Dark Sword, and then I can't think of the other title, but she had this space one that I really loved, and I wish I have it downstairs, and I can't think of the name of it. But she wrote other trilogies other than just Dragonlance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Deathgate cycle, was that one of them?
Deathgate was one, and there's another one that's just an outer space good time. I think she wrote 3 books in it. Can't think of it, but yeah, I mean, I've been like, for me, Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman. I was so excited when Tracy did a Batman book. I bought it, and I got to admit, it's probably not one of his best works. I totally fanboyed it and bought it. But I think the books, my kids enjoyed them. My other one that I'll mention is John Flanagan, Ranger's Apprentice. I think although that series is fairly new, my kids love that, and with Male Rangers, I don't think I'm keeping a secret that that whole Ranger Corps is inspired a little bit by that. I just love his books too. So yeah, like I read a lot, so it's I'd probably say now I probably read more than I watch movies. So
yeah, I'm trying to get there. Now it's like I think Todd mentioned, just being so busy. It's like you get like a half hour before bed, and that's my reading time these days.
I do that all the time.
Now, Double D, if you'd be up for it, I can check the page number as written for you. But basically, I wondered if you might pull up the Lich stat block. You can also do a Control F search.
I'll tell you what. Let me take care of this super chat by Dark Knight of Hibernian.
Oh, absolutely.
€5. Thank you, my friend. I love how commies try to defend the bugs. Yes, they do. Of Starship Troopers, because they hate humanity. Yeah, fundamentally they do. And even the communist director said the bugs attacked first. Of course they did. They flung those rocks.
And not to step on Todd, I've also sent you the lumberjack scene and the keep. So in your email, I was trying to put it up on the screen, but it didn't work. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time messing with it.
I was hoping to see what you guys thought of the stat block, because we did something that a lot of game companies don't do, which I find incredibly annoying. And I wondered if you look at it, what you guys think. As written, it's page 164, so maybe 169 in the PDF, something like that.
Yeah. There we go. Liches, right?
Yeah. So if you pull that up so that you guys can see it, and so that they can, you'll notice something.
Yeah. There we go.
So we have everything you need to run the Lich stat block in the stat block. All the spells are written out for you.
Oh, I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
I do love that stuff.
Like that.
Yeah.
We made a point to do that for every single monster with abilities of this sort.
So you don't have to look in the book at all. That's fantastic.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's really good.
Yeah, I really wish the big companies. I don't really care anymore because, like I said, I really don't patronize them. But back then, I would have said, why don't you do stuff like this? The more information at the DM's fingertips, the better. And it's almost one of those things like it's such common sense. You wonder how they couldn't think of that on their own. Like, do you run games? Do you not find yourself fumbling while you're trying to keep the group, interested and engaged?
Exactly.
While you're doing a combat, and yet you're like, but hold on here, guys. I gotta, let me go through the player's handbook. I gotta find this spell that this monster does.
Yeah, and if you scroll down a little, in this case, we gave our artist a bit of a challenge because we left him a weird amount of space to draw a lich. So look what he did with it.
Did a good job.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of times we want, as authors, we want to throw as much as we can in a book, but then some people say it's too chunky. Like when you start getting up to a bigger, thicker book, it's like some stuff's got to go. But I agree, this should always be in there, and I'm kind of partial to it. But I know the editor and I have this discussion about what stays, what goes, to kind of streamline everything. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but I love your content right here. It's perfect for me. As running it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can just sit there and run it.
Thanks. I mean, that's very much the goal. Nate and I are both DMs. I mean, currently I run a goofy number of games. I probably run something like 250 games a year right now.
Wow.
That has not been the case for my whole life, but lately, because we are doing play testing, we're also running sample games for our existing customers so they can actually play with us on our Gilded server. We're also doing conventions, and I got in-person groups. That has significantly increased the amount of games I'm running.
Yeah, and isn't it funny? You create stuff and you actually would love to play, but then you end up running it, and then it's like, oh, so yeah, I call myself the forever GM. I never get to actually play anymore, very rarely. But yeah, I run a bunch of games too.
I'm very fortunate. I got a group where they're almost like jackals. They're like waiting for the old lion to like falter, and they're like, I can run something. So I do need a break. So right now Rogan is running Tales from the Loop.
Oh, that's great.
It's a fun little game. It's funny because all of our, like me, my buddy Crazy Mouse, Rogan, of course, we're all of that age, where your characters' ages are set. Mm-hmm. Like I am a 15-year-old in 1985, my character, and I'm like, I was 15 in 1985, so it's like I know exactly what was going on, and we all do, except my daughter plays with us. So. We have one like kind of he's like an older millennial, so he was kind of born around that time, so he kind of understands it, but maybe not quite. But yeah, it's fun.
Now I do have one other one to show you guys. We don't have to look at it though; it's pretty simple to explain. And I'd love to see some of what Matt's got there. So one of the other things we did to speed up gameplay and also increase challenge. You guys are familiar with regeneration in a lot of games, right? A lot of times they gain a certain amount of hit points each round of play, and you can potentially negate that by doing a special damage type to, say, a troll, right?
Right.
So we instead have our trolls and other similar creatures regain full maximum hit points every round unless you negate it. This is both because it speeds up gameplay. The game master he just resets the original hit points with the stat block, but also it makes it. They're significantly more dangerous than like in D&D, and you have to be really careful to either kill them in 5 seconds flat, right? Drop them fully, or make sure you negate the regen. Like nice. It matters.
I like that kind of stuff. Yeah, you get the right group who buys into that kind of system. Yeah,
it's like the exploding dice. It always kind of adds a yes. Obviously yours is a little more complex, but when you have exploding dice, it just, you hear guys cheering, all your players get excited because it's like, oh, I get to keep doing it. So when you can do in a monster super quick, or to be honest, it's equally as fun when they do you in that quick, because that's why we all play. I think some of the newer RPGers have kind of lost that, like they don't want the danger. They want to create their backstory and do And that's if that's the way you play. I mean, I'm not judging you, but for me, I lose interest if my guy can't die.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
I just like I need that threat there. So when you have stuff like this, I think it's great. It's just like okay, and so yeah, I played in a Shadow Dark game and they used exploding dice, which to me really added to the Shadow Dark because Shadow Dark is really grim and quick. Like you die quick. There's no bonuses. You're just so when you add exploding dice, you're like, oh my.
Do you play in the deadly or grinder mode?
Yeah, no, I like this one. We played with exploding dice, and I was like, this is a lot more fun. Like you had the whole table cheering when guy rolled a 6 for damage, and then he's like, oh no, wait, no, it's gonna be more. And then if they roll 2 6s, we're like, oh wait, like we're now Conan, and we're wading through this horde. It's just a lot of fun, and like what Todd is saying is perfect. It's a lot of fun to. Because the big swings and the big, I don't think we're hiding it. The killing many monsters instead of just one is awesome. It's fun. That's why we're playing this game. It's the fantasy of doing battle.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I have something to say on that. But yeah, Ryan, working on it. I'm working with Wonky on the art, and also working with Rogan on the art. And now me having a break actually from DMing. I'm hoping I can really kind of complete the back nine as they say in my adventure. So I will let you know. That's why I'm kind of not promoting it at all because it's not nearly ready yet. But like I said, I'm working with a couple of good artists, so we'll be producing something here all in good time. Thank you though for inquiring. Yeah, so as far as that goes, one of the things I always kind of liked, and some people don't, in like 4th edition, I think it was, they had the rule for minions, which were basically monsters that they basically hit as hard as, a regular monster, but they only had 1 hit point. So essentially hit it and it goes down. It's kind of good for those, kind of like the Conan, like the pile of bodies that, you want to be standing on at the very end. I never minded that rule. I always kind of liked it. I don't know. So
yeah, we don't tell you to do that for Horde Wars, but if you pay attention into the monster stat blocks, you'll see that we did something similar, although with more varied outcome for things like goblins, skeletons, zombies, creatures that you're going to tend to fight really large numbers of.
Yes.
We tend to have a weaker version. So if you want to populate, 50 or 100 of those plus some others, you can.
Yeah, I think there's some good structure behind that, some good thought, because as a player, I mean, it's in your mind. If these are just run-of-the-mill horde monsters, I should not. What am I doing? Just chipping away a rib bone here and there. It should be one good strike, and they're done. They're a pile of bones, and that's it. Move on to the next one. You're almost using the whole body of the horde as parts of a bigger creature. So.
I do think it's really important, though, at least for me, for game enjoyment, and it sounds like for both of you as well, that there be real risk of your character dying or being maimed or being soundly defeated. Because if there is no risk, there's no heroism.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's a as always, there's a balance because I hear so many DMs. It's just not my philosophy. They almost relish, I'm a killer DM. I'm a killer DM. I really, really, truly believe you should not be a killer DM. I think you should, as a DM, you should always be kind of like a benevolent monarch. You want to give the players, maybe a tiny bit of an advantage, but if they make mistakes, you have to punish them for those mistakes as the real world.
I totally agree with this. My players get mad at me sometimes because they're like, I don't pull any punches, but I also don't fudge dice so they lose either.
Oh,
but
yeah, I roll all
bad.
Dice in the open. That's why
Yeah.
I might tell you, are you sure you guys want to do this? And maybe they can read between the lines there. And if they say, yeah, we have to, or we got to, or we want to. Fair enough.
Yep.
There goes the dice. And it's like, sorry if I roll 3 criticals, that you see them right there. So
yeah. But I feel bad when I kill somebody's guy they've spent a lot of time invested in.
That's just it. It's like, to me, it's almost the indication of like a DM who's maybe a little bit selfish, because it's like you're not putting yourself, or they're not empathetic, I guess.
Yeah.
Not putting yourself in the position of a player who's showing up very kindly to your game every week. They've invested in your world. Yeah, and I'm hoping if they're a normal player, they understand that their character death, that's part and parcel of the bargain. But, you shouldn't be like, have it in for a character, or, just kind of almost go out of your way to get them. I don't think that does you any favors.
No, I don't think it makes players want to play with you either, if they know that you're just going to,
Yeah, were you going to say something there, Todd?
I was. I did have a recent. So I've been running playtests for our a game that we're working on. So I think tentatively entitled Dropship. This sci-fi soldier oriented game, and I did have a TPK last week. But what's been great to see in the playtesters is they have been sending each other memes of their ship exploding. Like they're all right. They all built new characters. Yeah. They were like, all right, we made a series of stupid choices, and then we got critted on. Well,
and look, I've had TPKs too. It's been a stretch. It's been a while in my Birthright campaign. But yeah, there was one time where things just went wrong, and they understood it.
Yeah,
basically, they'll understand it if they made a mistake.
Yeah,
like my friend Crazy Mouse. He had a character just for a brief amount of time, and it was they were fighting this demon, this almost like ant-like demon, like it almost looked like a demonic ant, and this thing was tough, and his character was just a thief, and they're all attacking, and then he says, all right, well, I'm going to enter the fray. I'm ready to come in. He comes in, and everybody takes a step back. And he just looked at my buddy Crazy Mouse. He's very much a realist, a pragmatist. And before anything happened, he looked at me and goes, "This isn't good. This is not good." And sure enough, his character died. And he understood it. I wasn't out to get him. It's just, oh boy,
yeah.
This is the way it goes sometimes. So
well, with Mail, I've told you I kind of developed the whole setting. So there's on either side of the continent, we have kind of an evil group of knights that kind of enforce the laws and kind of have their own way of living. On the northern side, we have the Knights of Rain, which is just basically a group of knights that honor chivalry, everything else, and then we have the Rangers, with Mail Rangers, that are kind of like the peacekeeping force. They're kind of they go and they investigate and they do all this stuff. Well, my guys know this. It's like you can't just go into a town and slaughter everybody. And, there are laws and you're held to. So in one of the regions, there is a gladiator arena and they have slaves. So they run into a slave caravan that they actually hired on with, not realizing what it was because they never asked me. And they're like, so they take this work, and I offer them a lot of coin to do it. And at this time they're all poor because every time we run anywhere, they buy everything. So they never asked. And I'm like, okay, we'll see what's going on. So the next day they were like, what caravan is this? Look, it's a slave caravan. And they all got pissed because they're just, in their mind, that was terrible and it shouldn't be allowed. And I'm like, but in certain places it is not against the law. So kind of, I like staying in history. And so slavery is bad. Obviously nobody's going to argue that it's good, but in gladiator times and, Roman times, it's like we had slaves. So I always think it's good to play off historical stuff. So they hire onto this caravan, they get pissed. They're like, oh no, we can't do this. So they wipe out the caravan. And I warned them that stuff has consequences if you do stuff like this. And I said, are you sure? And they're like, oh yeah. Well, they just wipe out the caravan. Well, then they cut the slaves loose, and slaves run back to town. And so now it's like, now they're hunted. And like literally I TPK'd the whole party because I'm like, look, at this point you're being arrested. And but I said, you know what, it'll be fun. Let's play it out. And we did like a little mock trial, and I gave them some rolls, and they failed miserably because no warrior has a decent charisma. They're passing, but they failed it. And we actually built it in a little bit into the campaign that they were playing. Obviously that we got off of the weeds, but I made it fun. But yeah, there was consequences for their personal judgment on slavery. which I agree with in real life, obviously. But in this arena, they're not doing anything wrong. They're literally transporting this.
It's weird how like, and I'm not even saying like your group, right? But just these lunatics online can't separate like, all right, this is sort of based in history, but I would bet not 99, but like 100 out of 100 games that involve slavery have it as something bad.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just I don't think they're we're cheering it on or.
Yeah, but it's like so one of the future things I have. I love the whole gladiator thing. So I have a spinoff for Withmail, and it's just like another adventure in it that's going to take place in the gladiator arena. Yep. And because I think that leads to a good story, and it'll be fun. Now, some people won't buy it because you're like, you're obviously a slave and you have to buy your way out. But that's role playing. It's like, okay, I got to win so many fights and get out of there, and you won't need a big party to play. Yeah, you can play. I don't know if it'll be one-on-one because that might not be enough, but there's definitely going to be some fun stuff in there, and that's just like that's my other love is pirates. And obviously pirates are not good. We still have pirates today, but they've gotten more limited. But I love the whole factions. I love, stuff like that. But yeah, I also think, we need to have consequences for playing, and you're rewarded when you do good things. And when you're not, you're punished a little bit.
Absolutely.
And the old school, do you sure you wanted to do that? It's so funny how many people ignore that statement now. It's like, I'm not saying that just for.
Yeah. Okay, I am the voice of God.
Can I talk?
Well, I'll tell you what, let me clear this up. And hello to Black Lodge Games is here. Hello, boys. Craig Bragg, $10 Canadian. Thank you so much. As a DM, I don't track hit points. Mobs take one hit unless the player rolls a 1 on their damage die. That sounds reasonable. The lieutenant gets 2 to 3 hits with the same qualifier. Yeah, sometimes I'll do that on kind of like an ad hoc basis, Craig. And thank you again for the super chat. Yeah, there's times if there is a lot going on and I see somebody's been fighting and a monster's taken like or a NPC even as he has taken like 3 or 4 hits, and they just haven't rolled max damage. I'll be like, all right, 5 hits is enough. Like, all right, that one's done. Move on. So that's actually not a very bad way to do it at all.
Well, it cuts out the painstaking. I've hit this guy 3 times, but rolled 1s or 2s.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh my, you're going to kill this guy, but it's like, oh, this is just painful because I just can't roll anything. Well,
that's where like, you, as a DM, you just got to step in and be like, all right,
he goes down.
We have to kind of tweak the rules just a tiny bit here to just kind of move on. Go ahead, Todd.
I had two things. The first was one thing that will fix that doesn't require you to violate game rules. You can follow as much as you can.
We're violators.
Is if you play games that create a bell curve where you're rolling 2 or more damage dice, you will get significantly less kind of null results of just like 1 damage hit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That can help quite a lot if you have that experience and you find it frustrating. Just switch game systems to ones that cause a bell curve.
There you go.
And then, but the other thing was, Matt, do you have a setting map that you can share or display?
I do. I didn't. I will tell you, I'm a pretty good writer. I am a terrible tech guy, and I am not good at self-promotion. I do have a map.
Because I've been hearing you describe this place, and I'm kind of curious what it looks like.
Yeah, I will share it.
If you I don't know if you want to, you can just email it to me. I can.
Yeah, I will email it to you. Why I'm doing that, I think I can multitask here. So I wanted to talk about the pirates, and it's a funny story about one of the pirate ships. So the one that you have up is the White Spear Goblin Clan, and I love high fantasy, and so I love goblins on frogs. I think that's one of the most goblins on bats, goblins on frogs, goblins on wolves. I think goblins are pretty easy to knock out, but this ship especially was Joey Doso and I's own creation. So it has frog launchers. So instead of they eventually turned into catapults, and I decided not to do black powder. Black powder in DCC and Shadow Dark is there is some supplements for it, but I decided to stay with high fantasy and do that. So they're catapult. They launch the frogs. They're goblin-mounted frogs on that ship. So that's the White Spear clan. Nice. And then one of the other ships, because Double D, you were in this game, is the Black Squid Reavers. The Black Squid Reavers are a pirate ship that actually has a lone Cyclops member. And surprisingly, he later on in life dies exploring one more rule and going after a beetle that he probably should have ran from. And that's an homage to me dying because me being stupid and going, okay, let's do. Well, we should have just headed out. So I had to give him a role in there. So Magnus lives on in eternity for that. I know Double D will appreciate that for our test game. But
from our game, Greg's game,
So you see, it's in some of the art. Let me get this pulled up here,
and I'll read this super chat. Also from Doc Flamingo, $5 first. He says you shouldn't arbitrarily kill players. Now he's bad-mouthing pirates. It's an outrage. An outrage. Mea culpa. Mea culpa.
Let me pull up this map. Yeah, so I've fleshed out when you buy the book, you will get all the maps, all the battle maps. I'm a big geek, so one of the first things I do in my creation process is to go and make a map. Because I feel like, what does this look like first? And there's the map right there. I will always be like, develop.
Well, I'll tell you what, you get the map ready, and we'll talk to Todd a little bit.
Okay, cool, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, because I've been listening to the description. And I've been reading a little bit on the Kickstarter for this kind of module or setting. It's a little of both, right?
Yeah, it's definitely both.
Yeah, so that looks cool, and I just thought seeing the map would be interesting. And then for anyone, at least for my project, who's interested, if you want to pick up Horde Wars, if you want to check it out, for the low price of $7, you can buy the basic version of the game.
Nice.
For the PDF.
And the link is in the description, guys, for both of these. If you're interested and just want to kick the tires, take a look. Yeah.
But the full version PDF $20, and the soft cover is $50. Occasionally we'll do sales. We are working on getting a hardcover, but that process has proven incredibly annoying this time around.
People don't really understand costs or we have to pass on cost, and now with all the costs going up exponentially, I love hardcovers, but they're not always easy to bring you as far as costs. Like you go from a $30 book to a $40 book, and you're not really getting more of a book; you're just getting a hardcover on it. So people don't know that about publishing. It's like I can only give you what I can get from a publisher, unless because most of our third-party guys, we're not ordering 10,000 copies.
Right.
Like I don't want my garage full. So sorry to jump in there.
No, you're good.
You're good.
My own little, and I've got it up here.
Yeah,
so
just
go ahead.
Did you email that to me, Matt?
It's on its way. It's
okay,
gonna
cool.
give me just a second.
Because I've certainly found that to be the case. So we've done we've worked with 3 or 4 different publishers at this point. One has proven to be really good, and so that's who we have doing the soft cover for Horde Wars Advanced. And then we're really trying to get the hardcover thing to happen, but it's been back and forth with that company, and they keep sending us proofs with errors that are mostly on their end, that are not things we can fix for them.
Yep.
And so anyway, but it's a difficult thing, especially if you're doing color. It can be significantly less expensive to do black and white. I don't know if you've played around with that much, Matt.
Yeah, color, anything jumps cost. I mean, it's just tough. Like, I love color stuff, but I also kind of I want the exterior to be a nice color, but then the interior, I've seen it done well, but after a while it gets kind of shiny and kind of, I don't know how to explain this. So it looks plastic, and I want it to look gritty. So I really like the black and white art because I think it's more in theme, but I have seen a lot of books that are done in color that are just fantastic. So it just depends on the artist and how it was done. Certain pieces of art trying to colorize later, I think, just look. I wouldn't say wrong. I don't know how to say this without coming off weird. I guess the old school me likes the black and white art in the interior, but I've seen many pieces of art that just look wonderful. So it just depends on what you've got. So you've got the map up there. It is a color map, so I have a black and white one, but I gave you the color one. It's big. Cool. You're on the west, so that is the southern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere is where you spend most of the campaign. You start off in the middle at Port Mirror. If we get there for the bonus adventure, if not, it'll be Double D. You just passed the Port Mirror is right to your right, in the middle of the map. Yeah, right in there.
There we go.
That's where you're basically going to start. You're going to start off with a goblin fight with goblin and hobgoblins right outside of Port Mirror. If we get to the stretch goal, if not, you'll be able to buy the Port Mirror adventure, the Gauntlet funnel, and then you kind of go on this whirlwind adventure, kind of north and west up to Twigfront. There's elven settlements. There are like barbarian settlements. I think the barbarian culture in a lot of high fantasy hasn't really been explored. It's like we have this barbarian in our party. Well, where does he live? Like he's just a barbarian. So it's like I really wanted to explore all that. So I have some barbarian settlements in there. I have ogre settlements, and then they're tied in. Like the other thing that I don't think is done quite enough is the whole hobgoblin kind of homage to the kind of the samurai. I love that whole. I know we're Oriental Adventures tends to be kind of looked down upon now, but I always loved that. I thought it was such a cool book, and So, but
it is
with the hobgoblins, I've always kind of had that flavor of that samurai with the armor. So I brought that in. That's on the southernmost, so southeast kind of coast. There's a hobgoblin village. Some of this is hard because it's just there's a lot of names.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, it's a
cool. It's a pretty cool map. How many miles per hex here?
We were thinking 10 miles per hex, but I've kind of gone back and forth with that because when you're moving across it, it goes kind of slow. But in the adventure, it depends on how the GM wants you to move. And I have some notes in there on like, everybody has their own, and I'm sure as GMs, do you guys have your own way you progress in hex? Like I give you a suggestion, and then I want you to run it the way you want to run it. Like if you want some people love traveling, and I have a whole bunch of random encounters. So the Kenku I sent you the picture for the Kenku art is one. I have 40 random encounters that you can just dial up with a dice. Because I love random encounters, but I don't think random encounters should always just be combat. You should just grind your guys to dust. So I have 20 random encounters that are just your standard ones from out of the book or some monsters. And then I have 20 that are more story that add to the story. So
I tend to like stuff like that. Have some maybe heavy combat random encounters, but also some mundane ones that maybe aren't going to result in combat, and then also just some normal stuff that happens for flavor, and then maybe some really weird stuff that happens. Flavor.
So the Kenku one, and you've got the art for that, is definitely one of the weird ones. Kenku are not in the Crow race, is not in DCC and Shadow Dark, but I always think they're great. In Pathfinder, they're called Tengu. Am I still on? Did we have?
Oops. Yeah, you're still here. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Everything went silent.
Yeah. Sometimes this EV Mux is a little.
Yeah.
I was just trying to find that picture.
Well, I had a question for you, Matt. Though.
Go ahead.
Are people who back at whichever level is going to be able to get color and black and white versions of this map as like a separate file?
Yeah. So we've done. It's one of our stretch goals. You will always be able to get the color files from me. What I did for Massacre Grounds is I put the black and white ones in the book, and then the color ones I don't remember what they were, $10 or $15. I gave you all of them, so they were downloadable. If you want just one file, just email me. I'll never tell it. I'm really bad about Yeah, like I'll send it to you. I want you to play, so it's like, and I figure, if it costs me a $1 or so for the map, I just send it to you. All my maps are done in Encarde, so I do them myself. I would love to hand draw maps; they're awesome, but there's just no time.
That's what I used to. Yeah, I use Incarnate.
Yeah, so but you can get them. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the reason I asked is we recently switched to making our setting map a downloadable file for free on our website, and I wondered if that was kind of a path after your first Kickstarter that you were kind of going down as well, just to get people to play, to get them checking out the setting and excited about it.
Yeah, it's funny that we actually talked about that with a couple of D&D knows Double D knows this, but we're all players. But he's played with me, and we have a lot of our friends, and they're like, I am not tech savvy right now, so I will tell you that if you want a map, email me. I'll email it back. Right now, I don't have the website set up to do anything. I want to get there. Having one successful project gave me enough to get another successful project going. So baby steps.
Nothing wrong with that.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead, finish up, because then I did have a question for Todd regarding Horde Wars.
Yeah, no, this is something I'm fairly new to this, and I launched off late in my career. I'm a retired police officer. So yeah, my wife and I kind of have a rule is like, I don't have to make money, but I can't lose money. And then when you start having your own websites and everything else, it's like,
it's the old Venger Satanis wife rule. Yeah, she does the same thing, I think, to him.
She's a beautiful woman. We're not bad mouthing her, but
yeah. Well, Todd, so how much of like a setting is sort of baked into the Horde Wars like advanced rule set?
Yeah, so with basic, we gave you a starting area. With advanced, we expand that starting area and then give you an entire chapter on the setting, including a 2-page spread for each of 8 different nations. If you look in that copy, you should see chapter 16, Horde Wars setting.
All right, so
I don't know what you're using as the PDF reader, but there's they're bookmarked on the side.
Oh yes, 16. There we go.
And so you'll see that, and so we have a 1-page recent history explanation along with a focus on the Crusades, because we had players asking a lot about that. A lot of our customers appear to be very interested in that kind of thing, which is great.
Yeah.
And then we have the setting map.
Very nice.
Thanks. Patty from Patty's Parlor Games did this one.
Oh wow, Patty.
Yeah, beautiful job.
Is he in the chat?
He's
usually he usually jumps in on Wednesdays.
Yeah, but so he did a great job with it, and so we have this PDF available for download for free, for the map, and then you go from there and you'll see the next page. Here is half of a 2-page spread. So if you scroll down, you'll see each nation has some heraldry, 3 adventure locations with NPCs and adventures written out for you, and then a half-page description of the nation, including like unique laws and such.
Oh yeah, I like
it. And so yeah, we're giving you a full setting, but we are not trying to detail everything. We're trying to give you the highlights so that you have room to add your own material.
Yep.
So
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and and there's no need to be ashamed of it, but obviously I'm seeing some European inspiration here.
Of course.
Andalus.
It's a European fantasy to be in a medieval fantasy.
yeah, for sure. Some people like to run away from that. I think it's great. It's like it gives people some familiarity right away.
Yep.
Gives them something to hang their hat on, and I'm digging this. Yeah.
And you have America in there.
Mercia,
which
is the
I know that, but I was like, no, it's America.
Switch the C and the I, and yes, we're in business. Matt.
Yeah. No, it's the.
Sorry, that was me being a smart aleck. Sorry.
Yeah.
America.
For those who don't know, that it was the Middle Kingdom in England at one point, and so we took that name because we thought it was cool. And honestly, a lot of people in the modern era don't know what that is anyway. And so it sounds like a real name because it is.
I knew I had seen it before. I'd be lying if I said I knew in what context. But,
they used it in a show that's fairly recent. He was like he was a Viking, but he was like an adopted Viking. I can't think of the name of the show. What show was that?
That was on Netflix. And I don't remember the name, but it's loosely based on real history happening during the period when Mercia was actually a kingdom.
Yeah, and I just it ran for 3 or 4 seasons and then done.
Yep,
it was actually pretty good. There's another high fantasy show that I kind of missed. It was good, and then I think Vikings kind of spun off from that and some other stuff. Yeah.
So Todd, like how much of this do you do like yourself? Do you have a publisher or do you self-publish?
By this, do you mean like layout? Or
I mean like layout and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
always interested in that kind of stuff.
We're a 2 to 2.5 man operation. Nate and I are business partners and co-authors. I do more of the writing, but he does a lot of the conceptual design, and so we're very much a partnership as far as that production end goes. We hire artists, we hire editors. Laurel Dykema has done both of our books so far as an editor. And then a layout I do, which has been a bit of a learning cliff. It's been very exciting.
What do you use?
Affinity 2.
It's good to hear because that's what I got for the thing that I'm writing. I'm writing an adventure too. So, and I made the plunge. I was using Scribus, and I'm like, it's okay, but it's just so wonky. And I'm like, I'll like you said, I'll take the plunge and fall off the cliff and just try to learn Affinity.
I bought it and I have had such awful times getting it past the printer that I actually had to pay Bert Isla to come back and just do it.
No,
and I was so disappointed.
Matt, a question with that though. When you say the printer, what were you printing in? Black and white?
Black and white, yeah.
And it was, and you were trying to print straight from like a PDF?
Well, you send them your files, and then they say it doesn't or does. And Amazon was easier to get it through, but drive-through, which has become kind of an industry standard, like them or love them, we just could not get it to pass drive-through.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you mean by not get it to pass? What was the hang-up?
When you send them your files, they evaluate them for printer quality, and if it doesn't meet their minimums, like, and the big thing is bleed. It's like something will fall off the page. And so they do runs of books, and you don't want, I've seen it actually, I can't think of I'll think of the name. Skeeter Green showed me, like, he's like, yeah, this is, he thought this was going to be fine. He sent it to the printer. It didn't pass. They said, force it through. And the word just kind of went like that on the page. It started bleeding off. So it shifted. And so for drive-through has older equipment. That's what I've heard. Lulu is a little easier to get stuff by. Obviously, Todd, I want to pick your brain offline for your where you're getting stuff printed.
I have a company or two I can recommend, especially for black and white, because we're doing color with one locally, and that's for soft cover. It's fairly good price. But black and white. Now my day job, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I do administrative work for a church, and we're actually working on a book for that probably in black and white. And so I'm talking with this same company, and so I've looked at their prices lately for it, and I think that you'd be able to get a good deal from them.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Well, Todd, can you tell me, like, what is your process for like writing? Do you like write in just kind of like a Word document or something like that, and then just kind of import it into Affinity, or do you work in Affinity right from the get-go?
So for the first book, I wrote most of that in Chrome in Google Docs, and then we tried hiring a layout person. Things didn't work out, and so I got to do layout and learn it really fast. And so I took some shortcuts with our very first book that I didn't as much with the second, but I did figure out some ways to use Affinity 2. And then the second book, I figured out how to do stuff a little better. But basically, I write it currently in Google Docs because it allows me to share the document with collaborators, like when Nate and I are writing together, or with our editor and this kind of thing, very easily. And then, but when I do it, I tell Google Docs to set up the page as close as I can to our actual print specs, and I actually use tables to cut out spots to put in artwork, so that I don't have to refigure out the layout after the fact, that I kind of do it as I'm going. Whereas the first time I did not do that and had to figure it out after the fact. That was a pain.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I know that pain.
Well, I think that's because that is, I think, a stumbling. Like people say, look, everybody has an idea. Everybody's got at least one story in them. I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, I could write an adventure. I've been thinking about this for decades. But sometimes it's just the technical little details that will trip people up and cause them to just kind of forget it. So that's kind of why I sometimes like getting into the weeds, so to speak, about what you actually do, like what is the actual physical process. Write it in Word, like you said, maybe set up or Google Docs and set up the page the way you want it to appear in Affinity or whatever publishing software you're using, and then copy it over. It makes perfect sense, obviously, and carve out spots or blocks for where you want the artwork to go.
Yeah, because that makes your job much easier later. Well, professionals in the industry would be horrified to hear this. If you are only porting in black and white content, it is not difficult at all to port in a PDF into Affinity 2 and edit from there. You don't probably want to do that with color or lots of grayscale type stuff. You'll have some problems. But if you're basically just dealing with text, it'll read it just fine.
The grayscale was my big thing because Joey Dosel, who did the majority of the art for Massacre Grounds, he does a lot of grayscale, which I love. I really love that art. But yeah, that was a lot.
You put it in after. You add it as a layer on top, basically.
Right.
Now, a professional would not do it that way, but I'm part-time doing this, and no one's paying me to do it. I'm not being paid as a professional. I'm the author going, okay, well, someone needs to do layout. Let's learn how to do layout and try to do it in a way that doesn't make me want to rip out what remains of my hair.
I feel your pain. Yes.
I think I think there really is learning new skills like that, especially as we get older. I love doing stuff like that. That's like even just doing like starting the YouTube channel stuff. I had no idea going in how to do this, what equipment I'd need. I figured I'd just need like a camera and a microphone and a space to do it in. And, you just kind of fumble along and you learn a little bit here and there. Yeah. Pay attention to people who know what they're doing, listen intently. Mm-hmm. And, pretty soon, like the old Christmas special says, put one foot in front of the other and, soon you'll be walking out the door.
I've said this many times, like I'm a kid running around with scissors and I have a blast. And a lot of times I fall down, but the other thing too is in this community, it really is a community. You have so many authors and so many different people that are just so willing to like give you advice, talk to you. They have a lot of opinions, but a lot of them like Jim Wappler, Levi Combs. I mean, these guys I was introduced by a friend and they spent hours talking to me and telling me, okay, this, and they still kind of reach out and like, okay, Matt, you're off. You got to do this. And so the whole thing is a learning process, which I enjoy doing. The day I stop learning is probably the day they put me in the box and I'll be done. But until then, it's like I'm increasing my knowledge. I'm having a lot of fun. I really have to play catch up with the technology end of it because I'm really bad at it. Yep. Because I would well, D&D knows this. I spend most of my time on a horse wandering the desert. It inspires me to write. I love that. It's like horses don't have technology. We just go, I spend a lot of my free time doing that. And that's like my first Kickstarter. Everybody's like, you didn't do a video. I'm like, what am I going to do as a video? Ride a horse again for my with mail? I'm like, I don't have armor to put on it. And I'm like, and then, but yeah, I have to learn that part of it a lot more. But yeah, there's challenges all over the place. But the good thing is Double D, you will always have a good selection of people to ask, and most people are very kind.
Yeah, that's the one. That's really the one blessing about this channel. I mean, I love being able to say what I want to say about certain things. That's great. But just kind of like the chat and the people I've met, both fellow creators, and other folks. It's really been amazing. It's like I kind of sometimes think man, I had Rob Kuntz on. I had Sandy Peterson on. These are guys like I used to be like, oh man, these people are geniuses. It's like I love these guys, and here's a knucklehead, like me talking to folks like that. So it's all I can say is, if you want to try something, try it. The worst that can happen is you'll fail, and then you can always say, well, I tried. I gave it the old college effort. And
well, you'll get people who are willing to help you, including I've talked to a couple industry professionals who sometimes are willing to take the time to talk you through how to do some things or suggest improvements. Like when we hired our cover artist, which is the Basic Expert, or John Torres.
Good artist.
He was able to connect us with other artists and other people working on games to kind of swap notes. I wound up consulting on some other games, including what's one that's coming out soon? Titans of Fallen Earth.
By
Greg Lambert.
In fact, I think I just had an email from him for that.
And so I'm really excited to
see the kaiju one, right?
It is.
Yep.
He and I spent about 3 months working out a dice system, and I have no idea what he did from there. But I know he does great. He gets great artwork, and I'm excited to see what the final product looks like.
Yeah. Black Lodge says he envies my streaming. Said thank you very much, Black Lodge. Yeah, they hate OBS and have. Well, OBS. That's another thing that I never had a clue. And if you watch some of my early streams, they're pretty rough. I mean, there was audio issues were our bugaboo, because unlike a lot of streamers, I do have co-hosts, but they're sitting next to me, and they don't really want to be on camera, but they have a microphone there. So our big thing was just picking up sound on each other's microphones, and there was surprisingly little guidance on that as far as like helpful YouTube videos. So I just kind of had to muddle my way through, and in that process of just setting up OBS stuff and adding things here and there, I just learned, honestly, it took about 2 years, and even now the damn program still crashes every once in a while. We lost a stream in progress a couple weeks back because OBS crashed. But in the same respect, I mean, unless you're like a professional and you can spend a lot of money, it's pretty much the only game in town for, amateur broadcasting. So gotta work with what you got.
Yeah, I used that for a year or two. I did a YouTube channel where I basically did miniature reviews. I've since taken that down, but the OBS was definitely interesting to learn how to use. I just learned I hate video editing.
Yeah, and see, I don't mind that. That's the part I actually kind of like. And if you had asked me when I first started that, I would have said that's probably the thing I'm going to hate the most. And I love it because in that I do just use the free and easy Shotcut. Shotcut to me is all you'll ever need. You can do everything you need to there. Multiple video, files, audio. You can do chroma keying. Pretty much anything you need to do, and it is free. So when I hear YouTubers saying like, "Oh, I can't," the first thing I'll ask them, "Do you use Shotcut?" "Oh, well, no, I haven't." And a lot of times it's just they're just kind of being a little lazy, and it's like, look, you have to try to learn this. You can get away with, just, like I said, just kind of use. If you have good content, you can use StreamYard. You can use something like EV Mux. That's fine. But if you're producing canned videos, you got to be able to edit videos. And,
for sure. Like, and also like learning how to build a light box for the miniatures, so they showed up really well. Like that was something that I had to try a few times to get a good version of.
Yeah, there's times I've done like little streams where I'm just painting, miniature. I think I did sometimes they're like member only, or sometimes I'll even go on someone else's stream like DM James. And I do wish I had like a better system, you know, as I'm painting all these Napoleonics or whatever I'm, you know, into at the time. Yeah, it's I'll have to pick your brain as far as like the light box stuff.
Yeah,
Todd, I'm gonna give you a boost. It sounds like your system really works for like big wars. Like
Yeah.
I'm imagining using your system to have like a mass combat. So like army versus army. I think it sounds like it would work really well.
Yeah, so we, with our mass battle rules, what we basically tell you to do, because it's an RPG. The first game I ever wrote was actually a war game, but I like war games. But since this one's an RPG, but is focused on like being able to fight large numbers of opponents,
Right.
what we tell you to do is have the game master determine at the beginning of a conflict between like two armies, right? If you're dealing with thousands and thousands of enemies, which side has the advantage? We give examples of kinds of advantages that might matter, whether it's manpower, whether it's position, whether it's having the right units in the right against the right units. For example, pikes against like hussars, like so they pikes. If the hussars can't get at them, are probably going to win if they have ranged backup. But if the hussars can get around them, you know, then there's a different situation. Anyway, we talk a little bit about that, but then we have the game master roll a 4-sided die, and that is the number of localized combats the players can participate in to swing the battle.
Ooh, so they have I like that.
So they have a variable amount they can participate in, and you just run it as a series of encounters where the party is fighting in that area of the battle, and then that helps determine the outcome of the battle.
I like that a lot because it lets them identify and have their little single identity in the battle, but it also the battle as a whole is still going on. So it's
so mechanically, Todd, like
yeah,
we zero in on the heroes fighting.
Yes.
Do we do a determination they win, therefore in the greater battle there's a bonus dice or something to
exactly. So basically for each of those D4 localized fights that the players are participating in, each one of those that they win, they modify their side's dice roll by +1. But each one they lose, they modify it towards the enemy instead.
Oh, okay.
Very cool. Yeah, because we were trying to look at for DCC doesn't really have any mass combat. So David Beatty and I are friends, and one of and I want to hijack your stuff. So one of the future adventures I've got coming out is Tombstone of the Cowboy Syndicate, where the Cowboys, you know, historically, you know, Wyatt Earp, all that, it had a lot of repercussions of inflaming the Civil War again. Well, I said, well, that's a fun story, so we're going to go ahead and lean into that and do it. So as you're saying it, I'm like, well, this would be perfect because I don't want the characters to not have an identity. So I'm like, well, that battle, you know, tech sounds really cool because they can still fight, but they're actually, it's going to, the whole situation on the Mexican border just reignites the whole Civil War. And it's an adventure that I've got working. David has approved it. It's going to be involved in my next Kickstarter. And it's the sequel to Massacre Grounds, but it's just the add-on adventure to that. So you can buy that separately because it's a different time period. But as you're talking for Horde Wars, I'm like, wow, that system would really be cool for that. Because I'm like, it gives you an individual outcome, but it also part of a bigger scope.
I think a lot of DMs miss that too. You know, it kind of depends on your group, but if you're going to, I believe in like doing like a big mass battle, you know, especially if it's like the culmination of something that's been kind of going on and they find themselves in the middle of, but you can't like, I've seen it happen before where, you know, sometimes the player's eyes just glaze over because you're just kind of rolling dice to determine, you know, what's happening. And they kind of lose the personal touch in it. So that's a great system of, you know, just doing you say you roll 1d4 and what is that
determine
again?
The number of, individual fights the players will have time to take part in before the battle is over.
So if you roll a 4, they could, and if they survive all 4, they could add a +4.
Swing their side's dice by +4. But they might only have time to do one engagement, in which case they have very little ability to affect the outcome of the battle. Only maybe a +1. And randomizing that, I think, really helps. because sometimes, like a clutch unit comes into place in a real battle where that really determined the outcome. The Battle of Bull Run is an example of this in the U.S. Civil War, where really one unit holding and a second unit moving up to reinforce and then charge, that's basically what won the battle. The rest of the battle was less important in terms of the ultimate outcome than really just 2 Confederate units. But that's not every battle. Some battles, it's kind of just all over the place, varying things going on. Other ones, you might wind up surrounded, so everyone's on the front line. The Siege of Vienna, if I recall, or the Battle of Vienna, if I recall, was that way. And a relief force is the only reason they didn't all die horribly. So we wanted to get some variance in a way that was very quick to adjudicate. And we wanted to keep the action really focused around the player characters, just because it's an RPG. I like war games, and I would be totally fine if I had the right play group putting in a war game to run big battles instead. But you got to have enough players who want to play a war game.
Right. And what happens is exactly what Double D said, is that you lose guys. If they don't have the individual what's in it for my guy, they just gloss over and you do it. Yeah. But
you can't blame them either. It's like I do get it. And now look, I come from a wargaming background too, so I would be all in.
Yeah.
But that's not everybody.
But you can get easily up to 100 opponents fighting the players directly. Cool. In our game system. Damn. I think the furthest I've pushed it is maybe 180. That was pushing it a little far, but I had to really lean on years of experience to make that work promptly.
Yeah, you're a better man than I. Yeah. Black Lodge asks if I still use the war cards from Birthright. It's been a couple years since I did, but I did bust those out. It's been a couple years. I like the concept of the Birthright war card system. The war cards themselves are really cool. The thing that I always hated was just the resolution of battle. You had to match up 2 symbols and cross them on like a separate card. It always seemed really, really wonky. And I think I even did a video on it where I could kind of devise like, look, you could do this with dice, just by doing these things. What actually caught my attention, and I think I mentioned this on the latest live stream on Wednesday, is I just got a war game set of rules called Midgard. It's a fantasy, like a fantasy / historical war game. And they actually have rules, if you want to fight a purely historical engagement, I don't know, like Agincourt or, something like that, you could. But also, they have rules for sorcery in there. And I'm already thinking like, okay, you could do something like the Battle of 5 Armies, or you could do, something along those lines. These rules are really, really interesting. And the only thing I'm trying to figure out is, like Todd just said, like, how do we entwine this into the game, because the war game rules themselves are pretty easy, in my opinion. It's just, how do you get the adventurers involved and how do they affect the battle?
Yeah, and having battle wizards supplementing your army is fantastic. By the way, Dragonlance had them, so when you get into those books, they do actually have battle wizards in there that went into with the knights and fought side by side with them. So as you get into that, you've kind of shied away from that in your life. Margaret and Tracy really did a good job. Those books hold up. They really do have all that in there already. So enjoy that when you get to it, because it's really good. I don't want to spoil books for you and tell you too much, but that's one of the main things is they had them. Like Raceland started out as a battle wizard. So nice. It's a cool take. So
yeah, and the Birthright system did have rules, where sorcery, and actually I think those were some of the best rules.
Yeah, I played converted Birthright into 3.5 using birthright.net.
Oh yeah. I downloaded quite a bit of stuff from that in the beginning of 3. Yeah, because we basically have converted Birthright to almost every edition. So we've kind of settled on Castles and Crusades now. But Yeah, those battle magic rules on the war cards, that's actually a strength of the system. Yeah, and if you guys are going to North Texas, Blackwall and that's Todd and Black Lodge Games will be running Horde Wars.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. So I think our booths are next to each other, actually, or possibly across. We have adjacent numbers, anyway.
Nice.
And I'll be there running Massacre Grounds because the
cool.
Kickstarter was going. So I'll be there running Massacre Grounds. I'll be there running Port Mirror, which is the funnel for this adventure. Whether we get to the stretch goal or not, I'll still run Port Mirror there. I'm also running a Luchador tournament for those that like Weird Frontiers.
Are they going to play the Luchadors or the Bulls?
They're going to play the Luchadors.
Okay.
And then I think I have a Gangbusters, and whether it'll be BX Gangbusters or the new system, which I have an adventure shelved right now because he changed from DX. He's writing a new thing. So when he upgrades that, I don't know if I'll change it or just run it BX. And I'm running one more thing, but it's skipping my mind right now. I can't remember. And obviously with Gary's approval. But yes, I will be at North Texas. That's the best con.
Oh, that's great.
Down. So I'll be there running stuff.
We should trade. You should play in one of my games. I should play it in one of yours.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love that idea. I'm excited. I'm gonna go buy your stuff. Like I said, I love. At the end of the day, I'm a hobbyist and I'm a collector. So I read other people's stuff and it inspires me to think, okay, and just like I told you freely, I want to use your stuff to run a Civil War-esque battle after the Civil War breaks out again in 1880. But I have a lot of stuff planned for that. So I won't spoil that, nor is it this show and what I'm promoting.
Yeah.
Get me through with mail first, and then I have plenty of stuff. The sequel to Massacre Grounds has been written for quite a while. I'm actually testing the 3rd edition in that line already. And then I've got, so for that one, I've got the Salt River serial killer. You guys already said it. I was a detective, a police officer for many years. So I said, wouldn't it be fun to do a serial killer based in like the 1860s? With no technology, and he decides to just murder people by the Salt River, which is where I live. I ride my horse down there. So the supernatural aspects of it, as he's talking some elder gods. I don't know if I'm going to run this one at North Texas or not. It's pretty dark, but it'll be an adult game. It won't be for the kids on that one. But I've got that one in the bag already, and so. That's an add-on, and then the other adventure, like I said, when the Cowboys reignite the Civil War.
I think you'd be good. You'd be good at that, with your experience as a detective. I think you'd knock that out of the park. So you know what? Save that. Also, do it this year, and then do it next year because I can't go to North Texas this year. But me and my wife, and even Crazy Mouse, for some reason, it's weird because he's the most casual gamer. My co-host and. One day he just texted me and said, "When's North Texas?" It didn't work out for him, but it was just really weird. And he's like, "I think I want to go to that." And I'm like, "All right, cool."
You do. It
seems to play the convention to be at.
Well, I think Todd, to be real honest with you, you look familiar, and were you there last year?
I was not. Not. Nate and I have been trying to make an effort to go to a few different conventions. We've mostly done Great Lakes area. Last year or two, but we've also done some private conventions. This year we're scheduled to be at North Texas RPG Con, and we're also scheduled for Nova Open in Washington, D.C. And then I think we've got like 2 or 3 private conventions in the Great Lakes area, which is where we live.
Can you zero in on a state? Because I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm actually on
Michigan.
Oh, you're in Michigan. Okay. Yeah, we're just down in Pennsylvania. We're in Erie.
Well, if you are randomly free, especially a specific weekend in July, I can let you know after. I do already have 1 or 2 people driving up to play for a 2-day weekend from like Indiana and Ohio. So if you felt like making the drive, you'd totally be welcome.
July might be tough. I'm thinking of my schedule here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, just send me the information just in case, though,
Yeah.
because we're going. My wife and I are going to. We're going to Central New York, which is Roger Rebish. That's kind of near Cooperstown.
Right.
That's in June, like the second week of June, and then we're going to go back to. My wife is a huge like board gamer too, as well as being part of my role playing group. So we're going to Origins actually the week after.
Nice.
In Columbus. So it'll be my first time there, and I do know a couple of people there already at Origins they're very, very nice. So it'll be interesting. No Gen Con this year. We went to Gen Con last year, and it's always a spectacle, but man, there's just so many people there. It's ridiculous.
Our books were for sale at Gen Con last year, and we do plan to have them in a booth again this year, but we will not be there. We have a friend/business acquaintance who has run a booth there for probably the last 10 or 15 years, and he has agreed to host our product.
Good. That's probably the way to do it. Yeah, because it can be just even getting around that vendor hall is just, oh my God. Like I talked to Patrick Demo. He's one of the guys who's always
Oh, that's my friend. That's who I mean.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Patrick and I game together at a private convention each year.
Oh, okay. Yes. Send me that info.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if he especially is he going to be there?
I have no idea. I'll probably invite him though.
Yeah.
He's not that far.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm all the way across the country in Arizona, so
yeah, I was going to
say Arizona. We don't randomly go to anything.
But North Texas, that's
North Texas is fairly close for me to jump a flight to, and then we have. I shouldn't say we have two. We have several conventions that are kind of smaller. We have three bigger conventions. We have Tucson, which is pretty big, but it's a lot of if you like board games, it's a beautiful time of year where they have it. So Double D come down to Tucson. They have a really big convention there, and then they have two local ones that are kind of fighting each other, unfortunately, instead of working together, and that's Crit Hit and then Maricopa Con. I will be at both. Crit Hit, I'm friendly with the owners of it. It's a great little small kind of local one at a hotel. The venue is perfect for playing. And then I'm not sure what my other schedule is. My son plays competitive baseball, so sometimes I have to just be dad, which I completely enjoy doing. So if depending on his summer schedule for baseball, right now he's out hurt. Hopefully he'll be back soon, and then puts me like last summer. I spent the bulk of the time. I did most of my interviews for my Kickstarter from a baseball field, and it's funny because we went. I was doing interviewing with Mike from North Texas, and the lights went out on the field, and literally they turned it off. So I'm there, and then all of a sudden it's. And but they were like, "What's going on in the background?" The whole time they were playing baseball, and I was like, "Well, I didn't want to leave my son's game, so I went out in the outfield and talked and did the interview for
as long as
Eric.
I could."
Yeah, it was great. And then I literally had to walk to somewhere where it had light, and all of a sudden it was like, but it was fun. But yeah, I was in Alabama for that. So cool. Yeah, I don't know where we're going to be this summer, but North Texas, I definitely wouldn't miss that for the world. It's a great. If you've never been, it's fantastic. It is everything. Like if you've heard anything about it, it's everything that people tell you and more. It's just a really fun crew, and everybody's there, and there's no egos. Like literally, everybody just hangs out, and it's so much fun. And the games, the side games that come up, are even kind of more fun than the games that they have planned. So
yeah, we have a weirdly high percentage, and I think it's because there's a healthy RPG community there. We have a weirdly high percentage of Texas and near Texas customers. Obviously, Great Lakes as well, because they'll see, people will see us demoing at different things. But I don't remember. It's something maybe 5 or 10% of our customers are all like in Texas, and so we were like, we should probably do an event there. And we had one of them in particular, one of our customers reached out. He's like, "Hey, there's this convention I go to. You guys should check it out." And then we heard the exact same thing from the guys at Black Lodge Games, so we signed up to be a vendor.
Yeah, it's a cool place because I know when I went to North Texas, I think it's the shop is called Etten Games. They're a local game shop there. It's brick and mortar, but it's fantastic. It's one of the best ones I've ever been in. We have some cool local ones here too, but I literally was super impressed when they brought me over there. So yeah, I think Texas is strong with the RPG. A great community over there. They made a lot of friends. So yeah, I would agree that it's very strong. I think a lot of states you just have to find where it is. I was very interested in going to that central New York because my wife is from Buffalo. So we were trying to make that work. Unfortunately, that's not going to work in the schedule this year, but just because of where it is. It's like if I can I'm a big baseball fan, so if I can go to Cooperstown, we can get to Buffalo. I can kill like
But I was thinking too, man. I'm like, it's only an hour out of Cooperstown. I'm like, we're gonna try to hit there before we go. Yeah,
absolutely. But it's not easy to get to because you got to fly. You either got to drive or you got to fly into Syracuse. You got to fly into LaGuardia or wherever you're gonna do it and then drive. It's not a quick, especially for me. You got to fly somewhere and then drive for hours to get to Cooperstown. But I figured if I could split all that up and make that all happen, that would be great. But not this year.
Keelan says that you guys have to grab lunch or something at North Texas.
Oh, absolutely, Keelan, you're my guy. I want to see your stuff get to print. I'm excited for you to.
Oh yeah.
And that's a perfect example. Keelan and I played in Greg's game, and we've.
That's where I first met him too, and I'm like, because we were he was like the cleric and I was the monk.
Yep.
And I was playing with him. I'm like, boy, I like this kid. He's pretty cool.
He's energetic.
I love the way he talks and took charge of situations, and then find out he's a pretty darn good artist too. That's why I hired him to do, like I said, to do some work on the thing that I'm working on. So
I'm excited to work with him, and we gotta sit down, but we lost each other at that North Texas just because there's so many people, and he was there. I can't remember what he was running, but he was running something. And then, when you're running games, it's really hard to be social because people walk in, you're like, oh, I want to talk to you. And then you run a game and it's 4 hours later. And then you come out and you're wasted from you need to go to the bathroom, you need to get food, and then right back to another game. So it's but yeah, Keelan is a good person, and he is one of the best cleric spellcasters I think I've ever seen.
Yes.
They were like, okay, so how do you announce the spell? And I'm very verbose when I'm talking, but I don't do improv fantasy stuff well. And so, but he killed it. I was just like, oh wow, did you practice that? He's like, no, I just came up with it. I'm like, that is freaking awesome.
Some folks just got it.
Good energy guy.
That's right.
So yeah, when his stuff gets out, please buy it because you won't be. I don't think you'll be really disappointed. He had a little struggle, as we all do. We get excited about our stuff, we launch, and then sometimes we have to play catch up. And
sometimes life gets in the way of stuff. But like I said, it's only a speed bump.
Yep.
Only a speed bump. Todd.
Yes.
Do you have anything in the hopper coming up in the future? Expansions and stuff for Horde Wars? Yeah.
So like I said, we well, maybe I didn't say it this way. Unlike many role-playing game producers, we don't want to farm you for money. We are trying to give you a single game that you can play until you die of old age. How will our business work? We want to sell you more games.
Right.
So we are currently working on the first part of a two-part game. This first part called Dropship, which is focused on sci-fi, which is focused on human soldiers being dropped off on alien worlds to fight aliens, or on human worlds the aliens have conquered to liberate them. The second part of that game, which would be a second book, where they're meant to be fully compatible and work together, is focused on the starship combat. The first one is focused on the personal scale combat. And this is a game we've had in the works for half a decade, and we're very excited to get it out. The reason we split it into two books is because of production cost and also cost for players. If we had done it in a single volume, it would have put it at about 400 pages probably, maybe 350, somewhere in there. Whereas if we split it, we're pretty sure we can do it as a couple roughly 180 page books. This will let us print at significantly lower costs, and will also save save money for the customer as well. And so we looked at it and we're like, we should make this just 2 separate books that are fully compatible and meant to work together. But that first one we're hoping to have out near the end of this year. We have an artist actively working on it, and this is, again, maybe a little bit more behind the curtain, as it were, but we estimate our total production cost on that book will be about $7,500. The second book will cost probably a similar amount. And when we were looking at it, if we had made them as a single volume, it would have cost more like $25,000.
Oh, okay.
Which is why we split it.
Yep.
And unlike we don't really do Kickstarter. We may when we get to one of our larger projects. But
I know Black Lodge is, they told me, they're like, definitely do a Kickstarter, definitely do it. So
well, Kickstarter is good, like, to get some hype, but we want products that people can kind of rely on. A lot of Kickstarters are kind of a flash in the pan. You get it and it's gone, or you don't get it and it's gone.
Right.
We want to be able to, like, continue selling books to new customers.
Mm-hmm.
And so hype is good. The fear of missing out can unfortunately manipulate people. Maybe good for sales, but maybe not best for the customer there. Right. But in terms of, like, interest, like I said, our first book, we're nowhere near as successful as somebody like the Arcane Library, for example. But our first book, we had 550 or so unique sales. If we had done that as a Kickstarter, it would have been fine. However, those were sales over the course of like a year, right? So we invested our own money, and then we're recouping it over the course of the year. But people, when they ordered our books, physical or digital, were getting them immediately. And if you wanted to get that same book today, you could. And that's really more the business model we would prefer where possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more risky up front, though.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's that 5-foot lady that I'm married to would skin me if I went 25 grand in a hole.
Uh-huh.
She would. Good things would not happen. So,
yeah. Now, one good thing, though, for longevity is that we make a point to own all of our own artwork, which means, one, we can license it out if anyone needs artwork for compatible projects. But two, if in 20 years we decide to make more, or in 5 years, if we decide to make more fantasy-related content, we're building up a library of artwork that we already own.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I own all mine, and I've been really fortunate with my first project to run into some real great artists and recommendations, and I want to continue to use the artwork as we go on, especially, as Massacre Grounds go on, we're going to build on some of that artwork. And then as Withmail hopefully continues on, I own the artwork. I want to, so one of the add-on adventures is the Siege on Gnome Island, which, if you guys have heard of an RPG called Dungeon Dwelling Creatures, where you get to play as the monsters, there was an old school RPG like this, but John Watson is actually reintroducing it through DCC, which I love the ability to be able to play as an ogre or an orc or something. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun.
Perfect for like one shots.
Yeah. So it's exactly what it is a one shot. I get to introduce another section of Withmail, which is the gnomes. Gnomes are not big in, they've a bunch of third party classes for gnomes for Shadowdark and for DCC, but they're not really in there yet. So I was like, okay, how do I introduce this? So one of the add-ons is basically the Siege on Gnome Island, and I kind of have my own take on gnomes. So I just went kind of fun with it, where the gnomes just kind of screw with these monsters that they come on their island. And I had a lot of fun with it, but I also looked at, okay, how do I introduce my stuff? And then John Watson has become a dear friend. He let me use the Skinwalker class for Massacre Grounds. So I always like to pay it forward. Plus, I think his stuff is good. So Rugby Melee Games, here's your shout out, because I do love you, John. You're great. And I decided to write in that. His Kickstarter will be out very soon. Hopefully, he's got a basic set or basic rulebook out. You can buy it, and on our Kickstarter, you can actually get it for a discount of $5 instead of $10.
Cool.
But hey, check that out. It's super fun if you want to play as a monster as a one shot. I don't think long term you're going to play as a monster. Oh, what happened?
Oops.
Somebody dropped.
Somebody dropped.
There he is.
Oh,
there he is. Get him
He's
back
back.
in here.
All right,
He's back.
lost you for a sec.
Well, yeah, it's actually, and I was going to say, if there's anything you guys wanted to wrap up with, we'll probably let it go now. And
I sent you both a private link that is to our Guilded server, so it'll be in the private chat.
Yep.
And if you want to take that, especially Matt, if you want to talk a little bit afterwards.
Oh, thank you.
We can do voice chat directly on that.
Perfect.
But also, if you guys want to try out our game and play, you can jump in. You can sign up for and jump into one of the games on the calendar on that server. And even if you don't have the game, we can get you a copy of a character sheet and get you in there.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to look at it because, like I said, I mean, I wish I could say, well, Kelsey's making millions right now, but the rest of us are not. So, and we do it for love, and so I love unique ideas. And it sounds like your system is really unique. I really I'm gonna download it and like get into it.
Cool. Well, you remember, guys, you can find the links even after the fact to Horde Wars, the website where you can buy the PDF or the soft-bound book, and also to the Kickstarter campaign for Matt's Cult of the Winged Skull, which is a adventure, and kind of like a setting, right?
Yeah.
Sort of all in one for both DCC and Shadow Dark. And if you look at the if you examine the Kickstarter page itself, you can figure out if you want to get one or the other or both versions. That's all there for you. Horde Wars, that's a lot easier. Just go to the link and it's right there for you, ready to purchase. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm going to let both of you go right now, and then just say goodbye to everybody. But it was a pleasure talking to both of you. I do.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Anytime, guys.
If we have something, a baseball game one of these times.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say we got to do
baseball. We didn't talk about it, but we do. Yes. We definitely have to run a baseball game for you.
Yeah. And if you guys want to come on, to talk, or if you have something new in the hopper, let me know. I'll be glad to talk to you guys.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's been cool getting to see some getting to see both you two, which are new faces to me to talk to in person or directly, I should say, and also new people in chat. Hopefully, some of them will check out our game. And yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, well, the chat rises above its host. We do honestly have one of the best chats. They are wickedly funny. They keep me and my co-hosts laughing well after our regular show on Wednesdays. So,
that's great.
Some good people here. So yeah, I'm sure some of them will definitely kick the tires and see if maybe your stuff is right for them. So, All right, guys. With that, you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
See you guys. And there I am. All right. Yeah, and I want to thank you guys in the chat for sticking around. I think we had about 60 strong, which is not bad for just kind of an impromptu Saturday stream. Thanks to Black Lodge and Wonky for stopping by, Off Grid Gaming, Overkill Joe, Doc, Flamingo, Then, Cal, of course. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and spending part of your Saturday with us. It's much appreciated. Much appreciated. Yep. Thank you, Keelan. Yep. Ooh, there you go. Oh, nice. Buddy, I'm looking forward to it. That's going to inspire me to do even more, I know. So, yeah, we will talk. We will talk. Trust me. All right. Well, I will. Thank you, Surly. Good to see you, buddy. Yep. Thank you. Yep. OGG. No, you guys really do. I'm not just saying that. Like you guys we realize how fortunate we are to have you guys show up every week, and like I said, you keep us laughing. I suppose we keep you mildly entertained, so it's a symbiotic relationship. Okay, but with that, I'm going to let you go. You got better things to do, I'm sure, on a Saturday, and I have some stuff to tend to myself. So you guys take care. Great to see you all. Thanks for supporting. Remember, links in the description. Check it out. See if it's right for you. These are obviously two very, very good guys. So, as much as we love to, support Shadow Dark and Castles and Crusades and stuff like that, with their projects, take a look at these two. It might be something you want on your shelf for later on. Something you can just kind of pull off and say, yes, I can use this. All right, you guys take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. Peace.